My guest today is Brandis. He's a co-founder and managing partner of the Early Bird Venture Capital. You're welcome in Digital October.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Great. And my first question is, how did you earn your real first money in your life?
Okay, I think my very first money I earned helping out my parents in gardening. And I think the first business I really did was then starting to sell my old toys in order then to take that money and invest it in new toys.
So now we will know about your first profit. And today Early Bird has invested in more than 70 companies with impressive returns. You will correct me if I'm wrong. It's 430 million euros for more than 20 institutional investors. So open the secret. How can the venture capital fund build such a profitable and strong long-living relationships with investors, advisors, and entrepreneurs?
I think at the end of the day, it is built on performance. We've been, to some extent, lucky with when we've been in the startup phase. My co-founders and myself, we founded Early Bird back in '97, and as you may recall, then in '98 there was, this internet bubble taking off, and that provided us with a strong breeze in our back and helped us to scale Early Bird relatively quickly at the beginning. And then the bubble burst in 2000, and the wind turned, and we had it right in our face for a couple of years. And the only thing I think what made us survive and build on strong relationships with our limited partners, our investors, were the performance we've been able to display to our investors, despite the fact that the wind has turned and the environment was pretty challenging.
So, and do you interested in really Russian companies? Do you see any potential or global potential for the Russian companies?
I mean, without any doubts, I think Russia is an extremely interesting area. If I recall it rightfully, if we talk about Russian-speaking people, not only about Russia itself, we're talking about a potential market of 240 million people. It's huge, and these 240 million people are highly educated, and I think and provide they do have access to an excellent technology base. So there's the technology available, there's the basic education and the people available, and there's a market available. So these are, I think, decisive ingredients to make it interesting. It's still not easy, I think, to identify the right opportunities without really being a domestic player, and that includes a long list of risks we have to cope with, and we'll see whether we can take the step at one time and become more engaged in Russia. I would love to. The opportunities are definitely there. I also see risks, and we have to think about how do we manage the risks.
Which one?
I think that, of course, is the question I expected to get after that speech. I think the most important risk, especially for foreign investors, but also for domestic ones, I think, is in the teams. The assessment of the quality and the capabilities of entrepreneurial teams is already in your home country not easy. And is the main reason for failure in early stage venture capital investing. We have analyzed our investments we lost in the past decade, and 2/3 of the losses were induced in our understanding by team issues and by shortfalls and not sufficient capabilities within the management team. Now think about the situation if you have to come and assess potential entrepreneurial teams in which you want to invest in a foreign country where you don't speak the language, where you can't read between the lines, if the people don't want to tell you what you want to know, if you do not have the network to make reference calls, if I assess a team in Germany, it's highly likely that I will have access to people who know this person. I can make calls, I can try to, to surround it and build a picture from various data points over time, what I think about the specific team and the people. And I can read between the lines, and and I know the mentality and everything. That is something I lack in Russia. I can't do this. I do not have the network. I do not speak the language. So that altogether, I'm not really familiar with the mentality, I think increases the risk of misjudgment of people and teams. And this is the most decisive criteria for investment decisions in early stage venture. I think it is a special hurdle for us, and we need to think about how we can cope with it. I think the only way is to align with domestic, high quality co-investors, or with whom we have aligned interest and with whom we can invest alongside.
So also, I just want to add, hire the A team or A plus team, and if you fail fast on the early stage. So thank you, Hendrik, for the shirt.
Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me.